Welcome to Speaking Cinema, series movie Jibber Jabber, a movie podcast coming to you from the sixth point, way out in Hollywood, California. Follow us on social media at Speaking Cinema. Let's do a Jibber Jabber about a movie before and after we see it every single Monday. Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, some other places that I submitted our feed to and don't remember.
We do smoke signals sometimes too. Homing pigeon, we put little USB drives.
I'm not above a teletype, a telegram,
There we go.
and a typewriter.
We
so.
should do the first Morse code podcast.
I feel like that is the end of that idea. Because, do you know Morse code?
I can figure it out. I had a little book when I was a kid. Tried to learn it.
Were you a scouts in any kind of
I
scouts?
was not in the scouts, no.
I was not either. I did taekwondo instead.
You know why? Because my dad, when he was a kid, was in the scouts, and his scoutmaster showed him a porno magazine, and so they were like, "No scouts for our kids."
I don't want to go into your dad's tragic history here, but was it like a bad experience?
No, nothing like that. It was just
He's just like, as an adult, he's like, that probably shouldn't have happened.
That's a skeevy thing to do, you know.
Yeah, I guess like if a kid did it, right, it's like that's kids being kids. Yeah. But if a grown ass man was like, "Hey kids, look at this porno mag,"
yeah, that's kind of yeah. It wasn't anything like, it was just a Playboy magazine. It wasn't anything out of control.
But now that we're
a grown adult showing like a child
right
or a porno.
Right, as adults now, if you're in charge of a kid, you would never be like,
no,
like, here, I'm going to introduce this to you. You know what I mean?
Completely irresponsible.
Yeah.
So,
there's not really two sides to that story.
Long and short of it, no Boy Scouts for me.
Well,
so.
Fair enough. And I did the karate or taekwondo, but they called it karate. It's weird.
Man.
Ernie Reyes, West Coast Taekwondo. Ernie Reyes from Surf Ninjas fame.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, met him.
Good on him.
Weird guy. I am your host, Stovepipe Hat Enthusiast, Mr. Jibber Jabber. With me today, as always, the dead list and most dead of the dead rabbits, Kev.
That's me.
So dead.
I am possibly no more dead than anybody could ever be.
Mm-hmm.
I am dead.
It's like, could we be more dead? And the answer is...
None more dead.
None more dead. We continue our director buffet this week, looking at the films of one Martin Scorsese, as his friends call him, Marty. We looked at...
That's what his mom calls him too.
Oh, Marty?
Yeah. If there's outtakes of shots of her in his movies, and yeah, she always calls him Marty.
Marty?
Cute.
I feel like anything can happen this season, Kev. I mean, we've had divisive opinions on movies. You know, there's been some middle ground.
Yep.
You know,
Anything could happen.
It's just interesting because this is someone who is
universally praised.
I don't know if he's universally praised. I think the people who champion him are very loud.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like there's a lot of people who bow at the altar of Scorsese, and then everyone else is like, I've heard of him.
Yep.
And that's what as we go through this, that's what I'm learning more and more, right? It's like, Corey, friend of the show, Corey, shout out, was like, you didn't like Raging Bull? Like, what the... But, you know, it's like, hey, man, no, I did not.
Yeah.
I don't owe you nothing, Corey.
Siskel and Ebert got in fights, too, and you know what? Those are their most fun episodes.
I did like Siskel and Ebert back in the day. I did like that a lot.
When you realize that show was just a sitcom starring two guys in a movie theater as opposed to just a movie review show, that made it more fun.
I feel like Siskel, I feel like I was an Ebert guy.
Oh yeah, I'm at the altar of Ebert.
Yeah, Siskel was like, all right.
Because Ebert, he was the working man. He was working at the Sun, and Siskel was working at the Tribune, and oh wow.
Listen, your Chicago newspaper politics are lost on me. Order up for today. America Was Born in the Streets. 2002's Gangs of New York. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis, Cameron Diaz, Liam Neeson, Brendan Gleeson. Second time on this podcast.
Yes. Calvary was our first one.
Indeed.
Leading role.
And John C. Reilly. Written by Steve Zaley and Jay Cox. And Kenneth Lonergan.
Recent Academy Award winner. He wrote Manchester by the Sea.
Oh, did he now?
Yes, wrote and directed Manchester by the Sea. So there you go.
Produced and distribution by Miramax and Touchstone Pictures back when Disney made these kinds of movies.
Yes, they did.
If you're not familiar, a young Irish boy Amsterdam, witnesses his father's death at the hands of vicious gang leader Bill the Butcher during a bloody battle in New York's Five Points in a pre-Civil War America. 16 years later, he returns to the neighborhood to take revenge on Bill and reclaim his father's following. That's the plot
There it is.
of Gangs of New York. Scorsese had been trying to get this project made since his late 70s. I feel like that's every single one of his movies,
Amazing
right?
how a lot of his passion projects have been percolating for a long time.
It-
It takes a while to make a movie.
and this is going to come off much more accusationally than I perhaps intended, but it feels like if you were to just believe the bios here, Martin Scorsese came up with 30 film ideas in the 70s and has spent the rest of his life suffering through getting them all made.
Pretty much.
You know what I mean? God damn it. So the initial plan, Robert De Niro, shocker, as Bill the Butcher, intriguing. Dan Aykroyd as Amsterdam. I don't know if I can see that.
It's, when you think late 70s, he's coming off of Blues Brothers. Maybe he wants to try drama a little bit, but, it's a bold casting choice, no matter what year you try to do it.
The story goes, financing was hard to come by due to the large scale. Studios were worried about the ambitious historical epics after the failures of Heaven's Gate.
Yes.
I feel like there's a couple of them. Ishtar, Heaven's Gate.
Ishtar had, of course, Ishtar was more late 80s, but, the historical epic.
But it kept it down. It kept the historical epic down.
Yep. Yeah,
So it's not until we got into like the Gladiators, really, right? Well,
Yeah.
I guess maybe your Dances with Wolves in the 90s, and then eventually Gladiator in 2000, and Gladiator was like $200 million box office, Academy Award Best Picture. So it's like, oh, we can make a historical epic and make money and awards.
Money,
Yeah.
So. But yeah, they've always been up and down in Hollywood, just because there's no cheap historical epic. They're always just this huge investment, and they're always risky because you never know if Joe Schmo's even going to go see one.
That's my idea for the historical epic. Let's do it all in one room. Model movie. Speaking of ups and downs, after all the ups and downs, script reimaginings, studios, producers, Scorsese secured his leading men, DiCaprio and Day-Lewis. Filming takes place in Rome's, I don't know how you, Cinecittà?
Cinecittà Studios.
That's a cool word.
When did we talk about this previously? Cinecittà Studios.
With?
Roman Holiday.
Ah!
Also filmed. It's a huge studio in Rome. Fellini shot all of his stuff there. It's like a legendary place.
Was that one in England where they shoot all the Bond movies?
Pinewood. Yes.
And then obviously in California it's like the lots.
Yeah, we have many lots.
And then there's also it's weird because when you move out here, there's lots that are not associated with any studio, right? It's not a studio lot. It's just just a production lot.
It's like the Culver Studios is independently owned.
Right, or Sunset and Gower.
Yep.
And it's wow, there's
you can just do
20 acres here of studio space. Weird.
Yeah, and actual filmmakers use them. Like Ridley Scott filmed Matchstick Man at Culver Studios, parts of it. So yeah, it's they're just. That's a business you can have in this city, and that's it.
So designer Dante Ferretti. God damn it, I'm bad.
Where'd you get an L out of that?
It's the irony of all ironies that my name is people struggle with my name, and I'm also really bad at grammar too.
There you go.
So Jibber Jabber. People just when I get calls, they're like Mr. Jib Jabber, and it's the same word twice.
Mr. Jib Jab, I love your Flash animation. My aunt forwards them to me.
Oh, Auntie, when someone taught you how to use email, they'd burn the world. A mile of 1880s New York City was created on this backlot. A mile.
That's amazing.
Do you think that's a lie?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
When you see this, you will know that's not a lie.
George Lucas visited the set one day and told Scorsese, you can make this all on computers now. To that, Kev, I feel like you'd have something to say to that.
Fuck you, George Lucas. Come on.
Listen.
Movie magic. Build the thing. Film the thing.
I mean, he is not the best example of this, but he is right, though.
You can, but they don't look very good. Especially not in 2002. In the modern day, maybe you can get away with it a little more.
Sin City looked pretty good.
But that was within a certain aesthetic.
Sure. This film was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, walked away with 0. John C. Reilly was in 3 of the 5 Best Picture nominations of the year. Kev, was one of them Boogie Nights?
No, because that came out in 97.
So what do you know
The
them?
other two were Chicago, which won Best Picture.
Ah, yes.
He plays Amos, and he's also in The Hours, the film about Virginia Woolf and the two women affected by Virginia Woolf. It had Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman, and Julianne Moore.
The ghosts are my apartment is haunted, and the ghosts of it are really big fan of Julianne Moore and The Hours.
Yes, there you go. But yeah, John C. Reilly, I believe, played Julianne Moore's husband. I could be wrong though.
I come
I've only
home.
seen it once.
I come home to a copy of The Hours in the Blu-ray player playing. No one's here. I don't own The Hours. I throw that Blu-ray away. It comes right back. It's like
Right back.
it's like Annabelle, but instead of a creepy doll, it's just The Hours on Blu-ray.
It's always the scene where Ed Harris throws himself out the window. Spoiler alert.
Ah, man, heavy. As of this recording, Gangs is available in all physical formats, digital HD purchase, and is currently streaming on Amazon Prime Video in America. I don't know what is happening internationally.
Yeah, we just can't get that info readily.
Yeah.
Sorry, Peru.
They say everything on the internet, and that's not true.
That's tough. Not quite true.
Kev, have you seen this movie? Do you own it? Have you watched it? When did you watch it the first time?
I do own it. Interesting story about my first time seeing it. It was my first R-rated movie I saw by myself.
Wait, what year was this?
2002.
You saw the first R-rated movie you saw was...
By myself in a theater because I had turned 17.
Oh, I forgot your parents were strict about this.
My parents were a little more strict about it. If either my dad had to go or we had to rent it and kind of get it, there were certain things that they weren't as iffy with. So
my first rated R.
And then later in life, they totally weren't. I was like, "What the hell? What's the matter?"
I feel like a lot of parents, they feel, and I feel like this is actually true of a lot of people with a lot of things, but I feel like a lot of people are inclined to their principles that they don't really believe in.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Well, and there was still like, when they were brought up, the rating was still kind of a newish thing, and they wanted,
Sure.
Were they super strict about it? No, but the other thing too is Spokane theaters did card you if you tried to go into R-rated movies by yourself.
Which is bullshit because it's like kids don't have IDs.
Exactly, it's dumb. So, but then I didn't even get carded for this one, so I was kind of mad. And not only was it my first R-rated movie, this was the first Martin Scorsese movie I ever saw.
So I did not see this movie when it came out in the theaters. My first rated R movie was Die Hard 3.
Attaboy.
With a Vengeance.
Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Uncle took me and my cousins, and he was like, I don't think I'm going to stick around, so he just busted out. That was the first time I think I was alone as a kid in a movie theater.
Yep.
My background with this movie, I had a friend in high school, kind of an opinionated jerk.
We're off to a great start.
Who said that this movie was not good, and he didn't want to watch it because he heard that Leonardo DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz did not have consistent accents.
Okay.
And I remember him telling everyone this because it was like, maybe the Oscar season or when it came out. I remember him, just everyone that we knew, he would tell this story to, and it got to the point where it's like, come on, man, just say you don't. I get you don't want to see it, but like, shut up. You know what I mean? Then my uncle said that he would not see this movie because he would not see any movie with a teen heartthrob in the lead star, especially not, and I quote, Leonardo DiCaprio. And listen, this dude is a world-traveled guy, right?
Okay.
So I gotta think that he was mispronouncing that name. He's not like some yokel. Like, he was... Yeah. This guy's like traveled the whole fucking world. So I feel like he was purposely mispronouncing this just to be like petty.
Just to be like, Leonardo.
Yeah, Leonardo. You think you're better than me? And this is like weird because I feel like Leo was a serious actor. But maybe he wasn't. Maybe.
Well, he was Titanic. It was kind of his teen heartthrob phase. Then he did The Beach, and this might have been like his first or second movie after The Beach, and The Beach kind of bombed. And like but now he's working with Martin Scorsese, so everyone's like, oh, is he just trying to like be legitimate? And then obviously this started a whole run of Martin Scorsese movies.
And
led him to his Oscar.
Right. It led him to more adult roles. And I feel like, me and you, Kev, I would consider us to be, we try to be at the worst, students of the game of film.
Sure.
So I feel like in being a student of the game of film, the idea of someone who's never directed a horror movie directing a horror movie, or a guy who directed a horror movie directing a comedy, or a kid actor becoming an adult, those are interesting stories.
Yeah.
And to my uncle, who probably watches one movie in the theater a year, right? I think it's like, no, he was in Romeo and Juliet. He's a teen still, and I like serious films.
Yeah, I like films, not movies.
Right. He's had that Netflix, that Seven Samurai from Netflix for 2.5 years sitting there, and he's gonna watch it one day.
One of these days he'll watch Seven Samurai.
And so far he's spent
still in the plastic.
Yes.
That second disc never been touched.
This is the same time my uncle was like, "Why don't you have Netflix?" And I'm like, "I don't have an income to pay for Netflix." He's like, "Well, you buy Blu-rays." It's like, homie, I'm getting them used from like the Street Light Records. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get one. He's like, "Yeah, you can get them every week," and it's like, fuck off. I'm 15.
Yeah, get out of here, dude.
Oh man. Kev, this is our first movie with Daniel Day-Lewis, noted for his very intense method acting. For this movie, he stayed in character the entire shoot and was diagnosed with pneumonia at one point and refused any medicine that wasn't period accurate. But at the same time, he listened to a lot of Eminem to get him in the right mindset.
So, you pick and choose a little bit.
Is that how you feel about method acting?
I feel like that's kind of one of those. For those who don't know what method acting is, it was a Stanislavski method that was taught by Lee Strasberg and many other famous acting coaches, acting teachers. And it's all about, like, before you can really understand the character, you have to just immerse yourself in the role and just do everything that you can to, like, live the life of that character. Before you even, like, say a line, you have to, like, live that experience, Obviously, Marlon Brando was most famous for this. Christian Bale, famously loses weight and gains a lot of weight for a lot of different roles.
And I think
to a lesser extent, Jared Leto.
and I think Jared Leto is a good example of how this could be gimmicky. And
Absolutely.
I don't throw any dispersions on their intention. I think their intention is to commit themselves to their work, which I cannot hold anything against them with. But it's kind of like. And I listen. I have not seen this movie, but I did see him in Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw an interview with him, and I'm like, how he sounds in Lincoln, how he acts, and his mannerisms are very different than how he is in regular life, right?
Yes.
So and I guess he would text with what's her face,
Sally Field.
Sally Field, like he called her
in
Ma.
Character.
Yeah, in character. So
Lincoln texting in character.
But I listen. So on some level, I kind of get it, especially because if you want to, because I think about this sometime, right? Where I'm like, you're trying to change yourself, right? You're trying to make yourself all the details of what makes someone unique, right? Like when you meet someone who's unique, there's all these little things about them that add up to all the big things.
Sure.
So I get you're trying to get to that place. The problem is that film is a collaborative medium, so you can put all that work in, but if no one gives a shit about your movie, like Jared Leto gained all that weight to play the guy who shot
David Chapman.
Yeah.
And then he got gout, and then that movie tanked. And so.
Right. It's like, and that's not a good enough. So it's like,
and then not to bash on Jared Leto, but then the Joker. You hear all these stories about, Jared Leto did all this crazy shit as the Joker for Suicide Squad, and then he's in that movie for 10 minutes and is unremarkable.
Yes. But I get what. Yeah, exactly. So it's like I do think that on a marketing term, it's been turned into a gimmick.
Yeah.
And it's like don't gain.
It's a good story to kind of do in the press rounds of like, oh yeah, De Niro went to France and ate cheesecake and got super fat. De Niro, another method actor. So
right, but then you look at that movie and it's like, was that worth it? Like now that you're gonna have.
Well, yes, but
but fuck the movie. I'm saying. Is it worth it now that you got gout, now that you have high cholesterol, now that your body has you've gained all that weight, it's easy to put weight back on. It's like, that's a lot of commitment for something that's pretty fleeting. You know what I mean? It's like getting real tattoos for a movie. It's like, I don't think it's the best idea.
Yeah. No, I completely, it's just a good story to talk about amongst filmy types, but yeah, it's, no role is worth your life, kid.
Right.
So.
But then I think the practical level of it, I think it's stupid, because okay, here's the thing. I get that he's trying to be Bill, and I get, and I've seen clips of it. That accent is very particular. Apparently, they had like wax cylinder recording, even predating the flat record, and they were studying that to get the accent right. So even from that accent, it'd be easier just to stay in that accent than to go back and forth. So I get something like that, But then it's like, would this character not take medicine? Would this character not wear a... I think it might have been this movie or it might have been Lincoln. I can't remember where he got sick because he only would take a period accurate jacket. And it's like, would fucking Abraham, if down existed with Abraham Lincoln, would he not wear a down jacket? Do you know what I'm saying?
It's that old argument of like, if George Washington here today, what would he think? He'd probably think, cars! Cars are fucking cool! That's what he would think.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. That is exactly right, Kev. It's like, if Bill existed today, he wouldn't go around by a horse and buggy. He'd be like, he'd probably, fucking have a motorcycle or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Something appropriate.
Exactly.
So I just think that there's a weird... it comes down to the strangeness of actors, right? Where it's like, he would do this, but he wouldn't do this. And it's like, stop being a tough guy.
Yeah. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he was in Lincoln. And he has an interesting story when he was on Conan. He talks about being at the wrap party for Lincoln and witnessing Daniel Day-Lewis just shed the character and return to himself. Like, he said that was just a really interesting process to watch. So find that clip. It's good.
Kev, we're running a little long here, but we always have to end with, what are your expectations for this movie?
I've seen it more than a few times, so like many movies I've seen more than a few times. Will I get a new understanding of it?
We're off to a rocky start with Scorsese for me.
You liked Goodfellas.
I like Goodfellas, but
Goodfellas is fun.
it's good, but it's not. There's one good one and one I didn't really like, right? So that's not a great. For me, that's not a great way to go about. You know what I mean?
Anything can happen.
So I just hope, and I don't know this movie from a hole in the wall, but I just hope on whatever the merits of the movie is, whatever it's trying to do, I hope it does well, right? And I don't know what that is.
Sure.
So I'm just hoping for a good experience overall.
Alrighty. Let's see.
So let's just get into it.
Here we go.
Kev, we're back.
We're back.
Kev, you watched the movie, your Blu-ray copy in
Yes.
your apartment, I assume.
My 4K television.
I watched my DVD from the library, support your local library, over the course of 2 nights.
Because it's split across 2 discs, right?
No, it was 1 disc.
Oh, really?
Maybe it was on Blu-ray then.
I had back when it first came out, I had the DVD, but they split it in 2. Which was kind of obnoxious. And it was like not... It was like not in a good split either, so it was kind of a weird place to have an intermission.
It's definitely not an intermission to movie.
No, it was never planned for that. So
Maybe the ghost in my house knows if it was Blu-ray or DVD. DVD it was.
all right, but there's nothing. Not to get too tangential, but Once Upon a Time in America, that DVD. That movie has an intermission built in. The split is not at the intermission.
Jesus.
How fucking terrible is that?
Jesus.
Come on. Whoever put that DVD out.
I had to watch it over the course of 2 nights. Kev,
Sure.
we were talking...
It's a long movie.
We were talking about Scorsese casually.
The guy does not do short.
And you were like, these movies aren't that long. Yes, they are.
Raging Bull's not that long.
Listen, here's the thing. When a movie's 90 minutes, for my schedule, right? I can watch a 90-minute movie at night.
Absolutely.
So once you cross over into the... But here's the thing. If your movie's on average 2 hours, right? So 30 minutes longer. If I watch 3 movies in a week, that's an extra full-length movie
Yes.
inserted in that. So now it's 4 movies of length in a 3-movie
Yep.
slot. It adds up, homie. It adds up.
I know it does.
So
we'll do Russ Meyer next. All of his movies are like 90 minutes.
we're gonna do slashers for Halloween. So
There we go.
70,
80 minutes and we're done.
and if you fast forward through the credits, it's just the score over black. So if you fast forward, it's really 75.
Yeah, that's an easy 5 minutes just out.
The initiation. So Kev, what'd you think?
So, I don't know how many times I've seen this before, but this movie, it's big, it's woolly, it's a mess, but damn it, I love the thing. For all of its flaws, for everything wrong with it, I do just really, something about this movie talks to me, and I just really enjoy how messy and weird and woolly it is.
Counterpoint. That being said,
go for it.
I agree with you 100%.
All right. Well,
I did really like this movie.
I was really ready for you to hate this thing.
No.
Here's the thing. If somebody told me I don't like this movie, I would never chastise him the way I chastise you for Raging Bull.
And that makes no fucking sense to me, but whatever. Listen.
All right, let's talk.
I did like this movie. I really liked it. There are definitely some flaws of significance.
Sure.
That we will get into later.
Far from a perfect movie.
Right.
But I almost don't want to iron out the flaws in it, because then it would just neuter the thing.
Well, that request has been denied.
All right.
But to be fair, I think I would have appreciated it in, let's say, a 2010, 11, 12, 13 era.
Okay.
And maybe I wouldn't have appreciated it. But in Steve Bannon's America, this movie is a different experience.
Yes, and that is, I say I want to get a new experience out of it. I did not realize how much this is about xenophobia.
Right.
When I first saw it, when I watched it subsequently, because when it came out, we were in the throes of 9/11, the Bush years, and all that stuff was kind of just starting to come back.
And there was xenophobia then, for sure, but the president, and I don't like George Bush, on record, he was not my favorite president. I had that No Effects, Not My President shirt.
Yep.
And, his stances, I feel like, on gay marriage were reprehensible. But he did, to his credit where credit's due, he came out and he said, Islam is love. We are not at war with Islam. This is not about us versus anyone other than people who explicitly want to do harm to America, right? And in retrospect, that's pretty rational. At the time, it was like, you're a liar. You're a liar. But now that we have a liar...
Policies didn't really reflect that so much. But, again, for him to just come out and say that is... Old Donnie's not going to do that.
Well, his international policy, but his domestic policy wasn't like, let's make a registry. Let's fucking, deny people's visas and green cards.
He just looks like a dopey grandpa compared to the world we live in.
Right. I thought it was, it's like, I think I said this on to you before, but it bears repeating. Every dystopian novel I've ever read, I've always like, there's a little bit of a fantasy to it, but I like fantasy, so that's fine, right? Because, like, this is a little bit of, like in 1984, right? Like, slavery is freedom. Come on. Like, who would say that? No. Those guys went through some shit that we never went through, and it all makes sense now.
Yes.
And it is scurry.
Yep.
So, I think the framework of this movie really works, and I think it's interesting, right? Because the movie opens with this really long shot of the dead rabbits walking out to their battle.
Yep.
And you think at the time this is just a heroic, stylish shot for the sake of a heroic, stylish shot, but we keep returning back to it, and the movie really is about a lot of things. It's about, xenophobia, immigration.
What's the true America?
What's the true America? How your past can come back to haunt you. Like, everyone who's in that opening scene, their past can come back to haunt them in some way.
Yes.
Right? And it's interesting, like, there's a couple guys who sold out, John C. Reilly and that other Irish dude.
Yep.
McGloin.
McGloin joins Bill's crew.
Right. And that's interesting too, like the concept of who a native is being fluid.
Yep.
Right? Which we'll get to in a second. But then you got like the girl who does not get enough time in this movie, the girl with the sharp teeth.
Yeah.
And like after they lose, she loses all of her, she becomes a drunk, and only to regain with the dead rabbits once they reform. So it's like interesting that everyone in that scene, their whole life is changed by that scene.
Yes. And it's it's always just and it's just great editing by Thelma Schoonmaker, just those really key callbacks and key shot choices.
Yes.
That tell us like, oh, that was that guy. That was the guy sharpening the knife on his shoes. That was John. Like, if you didn't even know who the actors were, it's like, oh, that's this character. He's this now? What the hell? And
right.
It's just the march of progress just doesn't stop, and people go different ways. Some people stay on the course of like the dead rabbits will rise again. Some people have just completely sold out to Bill, to society,
right,
to Boss Tweed, to everything.
And I think this movie's about a lot of things, but I think ultimately it's about the concept of the times and how times change. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Before we get to that, let me call back. The editing had a lot of callbacks. Let me call back to our first half where I want to address some of the criticism that I was faced with back in 2002.
Sure.
Over 10 years ago. 15 at this point. My friend from high school said he didn't watch this because he heard that Diaz and DiCaprio's accents were not consistent. Fuck you, Alex. They were fine.
They're fine. People always cite Cameron Diaz's performance as like, this is one of the biggest weak links in a big movie. It's like she's not great, but she's not distracting.
Also, and I'll say this for the criticisms, but like Scorsese, the female part is a little bit underwritten.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So my uncle said Leo is just a teen heartthrob. Uncle Steve, fucking relax, okay? Fucking relax.
So.
He's doing good work, and I get it. If you thought that he was just Romeo and Juliet, you would just discredit this as a lucky Scorsese elevated him, lucky shot, editing saved him. But then now that we live in this Leonardo DiCaprio future, looking back on this is like, no, this is when he was just allowed to begin, you know?
I mean, in his Academy speech, he thanked Martin Scorsese. He's like, basically, you got me here. Mm-hmm. So.
And speaking of these characters, speaking of these actors, speaking of Scorsese, I think the casting here is great. I don't think anyone's miscast. I think, is it interesting that Cameron Diaz, who is of South American descent, plays an Irish, she pulls it off.
Is she?
Huh? Diaz is a Hispanic, not Hispanic, South American name, right? I don't know where that's from.
Yeah,
isn't it? Or is it like Spanish?
I don't know.
Whatever, bro. It doesn't fucking matter. No one feels like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
John C. Reilly, comedic actor, he's doing a great job. You know, when he comes and shakes them down, it's like, oh, dude, this guy's a dick.
John C. Reilly is a very underrated actor.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
He is super funny, but he can pull off these really straight dramatic roles extremely well.
I think that in like 50 years, I think people are gonna discover him and be like, dude, this guy with the curly hair who's like in all these different movies, like, he's always good. And I think people will go back and be like, when he's a star of the movie, he's good. When he's helping, he's good. When it's comedy, he's good. He's consistently good.
Yes.
Not every movie is good. I can see someone being like, I don't like Boogie Nights, but he's good in it.
But I don't want to be friends with that person.
Oh.
So. And who have we not even talked about yet? Daniel Day-Lewis.
Dude, Daniel Day. Listen, we talked a little bit about that acting style, method acting. I get it though, right? Like, I think it's dumb that he wouldn't take medicine, but like, there's no recognizable Daniel Day-Lewis in this role.
No, none. I mean, that is just Bill the Butcher on the screen.
Whoopsie daisy.
Whoopsie daisy. I'll festoon my bedchamber with his guts. Love that line.
That's a great line. But there's another one I like.
I mean,
civilization as we know it is ending.
Yes. I mean, just the greasy hair, the glass eye, 4 different types of plaid in one outfit.
Yeah.
The mustache, the way he walks. He's just that guy. It's insane. How is that the same guy that was in Last of the Mohicans? You know, it's impossible. It's crazy, and it is such a legendary screen villain. But he also gives it all the depth of, like, you get where this guy comes from in a way, but he is just this total monster who buys into his own image. He talks about we learned that his dad was killed in the War of 1812. And then that's where he kind of got this view. His view of America was shaped by violence.
Well, I would argue everyone's view of America shaped by violence.
And that's kind of what this movie is about.
Sure.
We're just this nation born out of just violence and blood.
And this is a movie that takes place before World War II, before we consolidated whiteness into single whiteness, right? So this is Irish people are, as they refer to them in this movie, white N-words.
Yes.
Right? And it's this idea that Irish people, Swedish people, and Italians are like dirty fucking, culture, like races, like, and then there's like, black and Chinese people, and they're also down there too.
Yep.
So, and then there's, fucking, like, Spanish and English is like, that's like whiteness. Yep. You know what I mean? So, but the thing I get that that's what this guy believes, but then you see how he'll abandon that for his own convenience, right?
Of course.
The Irish dude becomes one of his lieutenants, and the Irish immigrant kids are his street kids.
Yep.
And so what a native is fluid on whether or not he likes you or not, which is something that I, as a non-white person, spoiler alert, I totally get, because that really resonated with me, because I cannot tell you, Kev, how many times someone, and strangely it's women, once like I become friends with them and they feel like, oh, I can like
start talking about that now.
Well, yeah, like they say something like they'll say something to me like, it's interesting. Like, I'll say or do something, right? I'll be like, oh, Motorhead forever. And I'm like, yeah, it's interesting, because you're really a white guy. Like, when I first met you, I didn't get this. But, like, I'm like, and then I in the past, I was kind of like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to, like, whatever. Right. But then lately, I've been like, you realize that's, like, incredibly racist, right? And, like, how so? And it's always, how so?
Yeah.
And it's like, so you're saying when you saw me, based on the color of my skin,
thought I listened to this one.
You thought I was not like you. I was the proverbial literal other. Not proverbial, literal other. But now that you know me, you realize that, we can relate. Which is prejudice.
Sure.
Literally.
Absolutely.
So it's I don't know. I feel like this movie, there's a lot of things, and I think if it was about white and black, I don't think it wouldn't be the same movie. The fact that it's about what we would consider two white people feuding over whiteness and Americanness, that's really interesting. But to go back to your thing about Bill and his ideology, it's like, but Bill's dad or Bill's grandfather or someone immigrated to America, right? Like, if you're a quote unquote white Native American, the best you got was what? 14 whatever when the Maria and the when the Maria and the
Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria showed up.
Kev, you got your history on pat. So I'm saying, that's as native white as you can get. The real natives are the people we fucking genocided out of this motherfucker. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but no, it's our nation.
Yeah,
sure.
So that's the weird thing to me. It was when everyone says that, it's like
the irony is just lost on people that don't get irony, right?
Yes, and our president is one of those people, right? Where they're like, I do think that they look at black people, everyone who's not white, and think like, oh, you're like visiting in our country, and it's like, if you're born in America, that's your culture, right? And that's the thing I think people don't get. It's like, my grandma, who was a fucking immigrant, was like, she was down with macaroni and cheese and hot dogs. It's like, people come to America to be American. There's this idea that people come to America just to steal from America, and it's like, if any illegal person from Mexico who's flew over the border is because they looked at Mexico and said no future, and looked at America and said possibility, right? That they want America
to get to America,
and they want America to succeed. Anyone who, I feel like that's a weird thing that I think not that it's explicitly said, but it's kind of implied. Where Bill, it's like Bill doesn't get it. Like, you only come to America because you want to
be part of it,
right?
So you don't want to. You didn't leave beautiful, shiny Dublin, which had all this opportunity and wasn't in the midst of a famine,
right?
To like just steal everything and bring it back. It's like that's just how the xenophobic mind works. It's the other is just out to get you at all times.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's a lot of truth in this movie, and
put sharply into focus just in our current climate, which shocked me the most watching it this time.
Because it's the same. I'm not going to say that nothing has changed. I think America has gotten a lot better.
One of his things is called America First. And Donald Trump has a fucking thing called America First.
Well, I mean, our president is a white nationalist. It's like this. It's what's crazy. The craziest thing about it is like, this guy, like when you're a kid, Donald Trump was some rich guy who owned Atlantic City casinos. He was on WrestleMania in the crowd. He was in Home Alone or whatever, right? And then you get older, and now he's the guy on The Apprentice, and he's just a famous rich guy. He's on Howard Stern sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's like, Howard had to know that this dude was like this, right? Like, the people on The Apprentice had to know. It's like, if you're fucking, and then it makes it, for me, it really makes a sense of paranoia, right? And this is like the burden of being like, the other in America when you're gay or transgender or a minority of any kind, right? Where it's like, so people tolerated this dude being a crazy white nationalist with his conspiracy theories and all that stupid shit.
Well, he had no position of real, true influence at that time.
Political, but he had his own team. But
everyone's like, this guy's just a dumb chode with a TV show.
But if you're who's the guy who made Survivor? That guy, the fucking
Burnett.
If you're Mark Burnett, it's like, what the fuck are you doing with this guy? Yeah. Right? Like this, and it's like, listen, Kev, call me naive, which I am, but it's like when when the whole Obama birth certificate came in, I was like, wait, is there like, can they not find this document? Like, what is like? I'm like, what's the confusion here? And it took me probably like months or years to figure out like, oh no, it's because he's black, so he's not really an American.
Yep.
That's the fucking narrative.
That's simple.
And so this dude's going on and on and on about it, and I wasn't really engaged with it because I was like, shut up, you know what I mean? But like
most of the country.
Yeah, but he's going on and on and on about it, and it's like this is a racial. It's just like why, you know what I'm saying? It's just interesting. So like this ideology, this America first, this, you know, outsiders get out. You know what I mean? Like you're lucky to be here. You know, like this isn't your country shit. It's just really interesting how it's always been the backbone of American prejudice.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, just sharply into focus watching this again. I was stunned at like I'm seeing exact parallels of what's going on today versus what's happening in this movie.
Mm-hmm. So
now, if only we could have rogue fire brigades fighting each other.
Also, in the grand tradition of Scorsese, just making the through line apparently with his cinema is that it has to be about it's always about corruption, right?
Sure.
Every movie is about corruption. Like Scorsese's universe is like Tarantino's universe is such a fucking rainbow crazy universe. Even though it's hyper violent, you might want to live into it because it's just so much goddamn fun, right?
Sure.
Scorsese's fucking fictional universe, I would pay to get out of.
Yep.
Just corruption everywhere.
Absolutely. It's anybody can be bought, anybody can be sold.
And is.
So,
on that note, though, when Bill, I want to talk to you about this. When Bill dies at the end, I felt that was very anticlimactic, right? They're about to have their showdown, and then cannons go off, and Bill is hit with some shrapnel, and he says, "I die a true American, apropos of nothing," which is, I guess, the quote of the guy they based it on, but you know, not really earned in that moment. Leo stabs him to death. What do you make of this?
A spray of viscera.
Yeah, I did like that. I do think that Scorsese needs to make a straight horror movie.
I mean, he did Shutter Island.
Yeah, but I want that's like that is a horror movie. I'm not gonna say it's not, but I want Scorsese to make a slasher.
All right.
I want listen.
You
Kev,
want every director to make a horror movie.
I specifically want every director to make a slasher movie.
You want Nora Ephron to make a horror movie.
I'd watch it. Nora, if you're out there, you got one ticket.
She may have died. Yeah, she died.
Oh, did she die?
Yeah.
Well,
anyways, so
listen, if they to Nora Ephron's estate, if that slasher movie exists in that vault, I'll watch it.
So here's what I thought about that climax. I do think, in terms of what we're sort of expecting, it is a little anticlimactic. It's not this big fucking battle, and they don't fight on top of a mountain, and they stop. But I think when you really think about the big themes of the movie, is that Bill and Amsterdam's dad, the priest Valen, they both kind of wanted the same thing, right? They both wanted this vision of America that they could live in and just do their thing. They were both looking for that exact same stuff, but the only thing that really divided them was like, you worship this god and I worship this god.
In this arbitrary ideal of I am a Native American and you are
first and you came here. So.
Right.
But he's it's that kind of thing, and it's.
But aren't they technically praying to the same god?
They are, and that's what's funny about it is that they're letting this one little thing divide them. But then, I think maybe the true climax of the movie is they're buried together.
Yes.
So that's, we as movie watchers who've seen historical epics, we think the climax is going to be the big fucking battle, the big showdown between the two. But what the movie's really about is these guys had the same vision, and we're not too far apart from each other, really.
Except for the blinding hatred they had for each other.
The blinding hatred they had for each other. And, that's all that ever separated them. And then that's what's going to bring America together at some point. It brings them together, and then New York builds around them, and I think that's kind of the true climax of the movie.
It's interesting. It's very interesting.
That's kind of just how I felt watching it this time. I said, oh, that's what this movie's really getting at. Because he kills the guy in the beginning, but he, worships at the altar of him, too. He has the picture up. I love the little detail of years of candle wax around that picture, because they're just burning candles all the time around it as just a symbol of Priest Valen is this noble man, who had the honor of dying at my hand. But they celebrate him every single year for 16 years, and he knows that he's a good person, and he does it, but just one little thing is all that really separated them, and they were going for the exact same goal. And I think the movie really does that throughout this. That's kind of the through line through the whole runtime of it, which I think is really interesting. And I kind of never really pulled that until this viewing. That we're all just, there's not that much keeping us apart.
That's interesting. I interpreted that ending as the times change, right? Again, because the movie's about the time since there's always this backbone. The backbone of the movie, and it gets more and more important as the time goes on, is the revolution. The Civil War is going on, and the country is about to change, right? And slavery is about to be ended. We know this. Spoiler alert for history. So I feel like, and we also know in history that this concept of split whiteness is going to go away. Not soon, in about 100 years, right? Because 1850 to 1950. So I feel like the ending of the movie is that this ideology goes out with a whimper, right? It just eventually fades out and is changed. And that's why Bill's death is not grandiose. It's that his ideology is forgotten. And then, which ties in what you're saying, where they're buried together, and then that cemetery grows over. And Bill is also, I don't know if you noticed this, his grave marker is made out of wood, which will only last a couple of years. So it's like, they show this, the shot fades as time goes on, and so his tombstone is gone pretty quick, and everything is overgrown, but his is just gone. So I think that's an interesting. I think it's an interesting allegory for that. That's how I interpreted it.
That ideology won't get its Waterloo. It's just gonna kind of
go away. Right. And because Leo says in the voiceover afterwards, and I wrote this down because I thought this is weird. He's like, in the end, he says, friend or foe, it made no difference, right? In the end, because they were all getting slaughtered by the government. So it's like, I think you could interpret that as like an anti-government idea, but you could also interpret that as just like, it didn't matter, right? What we were fighting for didn't matter. He just wanted his own revenge, but like these broader concepts were just nothing. You know what I mean? Also, I want to Scorsese, as we go through this season, Scorsese, he's a stylish dude. It's never like, it's not like Dario Argento.
It's never without substance, though.
And I feel like the idea of style without substance is kind of overrated. I think people degrade style because they notice it and it's different. I think everyone wants something new, but everyone hates change.
Sure.
Of
course.
Which is really annoying. So, there's some what I'm going to call pure cinema in this, which is like stylishness that only works in the context of a movie, but is not intrinsically real. And the beginning of the movie, in the movie language, right? So like in the beginning of the movie, Bill's confronting Liam Neeson, and he's like, "Is that all you've got?" And then like the goddamn Power Rangers, a bunch of gangs on that queue come out, and they're like,
the Shark Tales,
the Bones Brigade, and it's like
Plug Uglies,
the Morphin' Time. And it's like, that makes no fucking sense, but in terms of movie excellence, it's just goddamn perfect, right?
Well, and just like, Bill's introduction, snow, boots, pan up. This guy has a huge mustache and a huge hat. 3 cuts in, we're on his glass eye.
Right, which is an eagle.
Which is a fucking silver eagle in his eye. He walks out, a big army walks out behind him. It's like, that is, you can't write that, you can't capture that in one photograph. It's like, that is such a pure, like you said, pure cinema moment.
Yes.
That guy he bleeds cinema.
Right. And if we were to name all of the pure cinema moments in this movie, we'd just never be done. But I just do that's one of the things I think is likable about this movie, is that and you saw that in Raging Bull, and we saw that in Goodfellas, is the style is there, and it's not overly done. It's just cool.
Yep.
I
mean, it's from the production design. The production design is fantastic in this movie. It's unfathomably good.
It is good.
From the Chinese pagoda to the streets to Bill's little bar area to the Dead Rabbit's hideout to everything is just, Bill's bar has a tree going through it. What?
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's true.
Just absolutely goddamn.
And everything feels super dirty
but not in a really, it's dirty, but it's still so colorful.
Yeah.
Too. Which usually in a historical drama, you just kind of, everything's just mud.
Right.
But people have 8 kinds of plaid on. They got stovepipe hats. They got big mustaches. They've got, it's just a costume designer's dream wrought huge.
Right.
And then there's a bajillion extras in every scene too.
Speaking of style, I caught the end of the movie, and now that we've watched this, I realized I had watched the end of the movie, literally, like Bill getting right after Bill gets killed. Okay. I totally forgot about this, and then to the credits. Uh-huh. When I saw it, it was on FX. When I saw it on FX, it was the Dropkick Murphys played over the ending credits, like the like the big gangs of New York sign. And that is not what I saw in this one. So I'm like, how did that happen?
I have no idea. It's always been that U2 song. Like, when I saw it in theaters, I remember it's the song U2 specifically wrote for this movie.
Also, that song is terrible.
U2 is terrible. So
listen.
Which Dropkick Murphys song did they play?
That one that everyone knows, like... They
played Shipping Up to Boston in a movie about New York?
Listen. I don't know what happened. That's my memory of it. Listen, the movie could have been on mute, and that could have been playing in the restaurant. I don't know. But, I also need to shout out, in terms of stylishness, that praying scene.
Yes.
So good.
With, it's a 3-cut between Bill, Amsterdam, and then Scammerhorn, who's a high society New York la-di-da.
Also, la-di-da. Also, Scammerhorn is a little bit that's a little Three Stooges for me, but go ahead.
Also, that guy's eyebrows in every movie, he just has, like...
Can't be denied.
Cat eyebrows. Yeah. So.
I just think that's so great. It's such a neat exposure on religion, this idea that everyone thinks that their God is God and that their God is in line with their personal beliefs.
And they're all saying about the same prayer, but they're all doing it for such different reasons. Scammerhorn is talking about just protect this family and thank you for
everything
all
you've
given us.
Right.
Bill is all about, let's go fuck some shit up and let's reclaim what is ours. And then Amsterdam's is, let's do what's right for my people, basically.
Right, and let me get my sweet revenge.
But they're all saying the exact same thing.
Right, and it shows how none of them, and in some cases, rightfully so, but none of them see the world from anyone else's perspective, right? Like, God, thanks for looking out for us. It's like, but I don't give a shit about these unwashed masses. You don't look out for them, not my problem.
Until somebody throws a chair through his window.
Right.
So.
I also like that scene because it kind of... I feel like in America we live under this myth that, like, if you own guns you can protect yourself from anything, and it's like, yeah, you have all those guns, but what are you gonna do? Just people are gonna let you mow them down? It's like he shot 2 people and then they just
they completely overwhelm him.
Right.
So. He's got revolvers, so but yeah, that's just a total myth. So that keeps getting perpetuated.
Mm-hmm. We talked about how relevant this movie was, and it's crazy. You know what I mean? It's just crazy how it feels. It feels so modern.
Cycled back around.
Yeah.
This movie could have easily been made today, frame for frame, and people have been, look at how it's commenting on the current situation. It was made 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it just totally works.
I wanted to look at. I don't go to Rotten Tomatoes ever, and I went to Rotten Tomatoes to like look at old reviews. It only had the little blurbs, didn't have the actual reviews.
Yeah, it's I remember reading some when they came out. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone, this was his pick for movie of the year that year. But yeah, so it's amazing reading them and this is again about Rotten Tomatoes. This movie has like a 79, 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, whatever. The people that love it think it's great. The word masterpiece is thrown around. People that hate it do not get it one bit, or it's just not their cup of tea, or they're like, Martin Scorsese's really off his mark on this one. It's amazing how people can watch the exact same movie made by this master and have just a completely divided opinion of it. And it's something I can kind of get, because it's a woolly movie, it's... Scorsese said the only movie he ever directed with a plot was The Departed.
Which I want to talk about. We'll save it later in the season because I feel like the fact that that's the only movie with a plot and the fact that he won an award for it are not unrelated facts.
That's completely true. But yeah, his movies really do just flow at their own pace, at a pace that we're not necessarily used to as moviegoers. And what you really see is his craft and his voice and the craft of his collaborators and their voice is what's really propelling this thing along.
Right. And on both that note and what we introduced is with how it feels relevant to our recent political climate, it's really a revolutionary movie that, because I think everyone is white, it doesn't come across as like, you know, if this movie was about black people, this would be like, you know, more salacious, right? But it's like
more 12 Years a Slave or Glory and
less this.
Yeah.
But so the fact that that people are upset, so they're like, okay, let's utilize the death penalty to calm the people down. It's like, that is a bold statement. You know, that is a very radical political like thing to say. It's also kind of true.
Yep.
And this movie makes no bones about it. They're like, yeah, we'll kill some people and then that'll calm everyone down.
We need a good hanging in the points. Man, that was entertainment back then.
It was.
Let's hang some fools.
And I feel like there's interesting, like, the vernacular, like, you know, got the sand.
Yep. Got the sand to be a turtle dove. They're just throwing that out. It's Clockwork Orange like. It's just its own little glossary.
Yeah.
If I remember right, the old DVD had like a glossary of it, of like certain terms that they throw out. You know, you'll have to filch me another one, Bill. Like, filch means steal. But why not just say steal? Because we're in this world. Mm-hmm. Say filch.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and I liked all of that stuff. I thought that it was really good. Also, did Cameron Diaz have an abortion, or did her baby die?
I think it's sort of left open. But,
yes.
I mean, regardless, she was pregnant at one point and
does not have a baby.
The baby had to be cut out, and then that's sort of. Is that kind of when Bill cast her aside a bit?
I don't know. There's a lot that's implied there.
Sure.
That is it Bill's? Is it not Bill's? Is it whatever? So let's get into some things that didn't work, Kev. I do want to talk about the things that don't work.
The big one, the elephant in the room, the elephant.
That digital elephant?
Yeah, that thing does not look good.
So
and it really adds nothing to that scene.
So supposedly the way that worked out, I read this a couple of years ago. Harvey Weinstein, who produced this movie, was saying they got out to
Cinecittà,
and they were like, they had an animal guy, and he's like, I got an elephant, don't worry. And then they got down to the day, and he's like, yeah, I got a tiger. And he's like, no, we want an elephant. And he's like, there ain't no elephants in this whole country, you know, no one has an elephant. So they called up James Cameron, and they're like, we gotta do this digitally, how the fuck do we do this? And he's like, here's how you light it, here's how you do it, here's what you want to get. Okay. So James Cameron advised them on how to do that, get that shot.
Interesting. I had no idea.
I mean, it's an interesting shot. It shows you how.
Although I think if you have a tiger, put a tiger in that scene. That looks equally exotic and strange.
But I think a tiger would be like, someone better shoot that thing. An elephant is like, what? Like, yeah. How do we? I mean, it's an elephant. It's not gonna fucking hurt anyone, right? Like, can we just wrangle it? Like, what do we do?
No, nobody knows how. Nobody has an elephant procedure in 1800 New York,
right?
Because you don't need one,
right? It's like exactly.
But I just think just those effects don't really hold up.
They're not great, but I don't think if that's the worst thing about this movie, then you're fine. You know. Two things about Bill. Bill's an amazing character.
Yes.
And I get that he's charming and quotable because leaders are charming and quotable. That's fine, right? Like,
if they weren't, nobody would follow him. They'd
exactly.
Be like, this guy is just a prick.
Because Bill has a reprehensible worldview, but there has to be a reason why people follow him. There has to be a confidence that he imbibes into people, right? I get that. But there's two things about Bill that they did that I really think is bizarre in a way that is like makes you question the people who made this movie.
Okay.
Thing the first, they implied that Bill is kind of like a ladies' man.
Yeah.
In the scene specifically where he's in the brothel, he's the villain and he's evil, but he satisfies like professional prostitutes. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, I don't know if there's amateur prostitutes.
I mean, he has like a straight Black Dynamite moment. He's got 3 ladies in his bed,
and they're all naked and exhausted, and it's like, I don't. If you're writing this movie, I don't get how you can write that. I don't know what. Like, I feel like sexual prowess in men is something that is like respected, and like that's like manly man. You know what I mean?
Stud.
And it's like, do you think that a guy with this ideology knows how to work the clit? No, homie. No, he does not.
They didn't even know what the clit was back then.
Not true.
They had not found it.
Not true, homie. The enlightened ones. That Kama Sutra's old, homie. All right. So I just think that like a guy like that would not be able to do that.
Pleases me. Okay, that's an interesting point.
And two, I think this is a pure cinema thing, right? He honors his rival, and it's a pure cinema thing, right? It's like my enemy. It's Batman. It's fucking the Joker, right? Like my enemy makes me, right? That's very cinematic, and I like that, and I think it works for the Joker. I don't know if it works here. 'Cause I think it's a little bit too wacky because we know from our, and especially me, but from our time in this country right now, xenophobes have no respect for the people they hate, right?
It's true.
They're the vermin.
Unless somehow Bill is a more enlightened xenophobe. Yeah, it's they will find any angle to discredit the people they don't agree with.
I just think that prejudice undercuts respect, right? And it's just like honor. Like they kind of give him a lot of this honor, but I feel like men of his ilk are cowards and sexually feeble.
Yes.
So it's just
which is 9 times out of 10 why they're actually mad.
Right. So it's a weird thing to give him these features, and I don't know what it says. I don't know whose decision that was, the writers, Marty, and I don't know what it says about them, right? Like you think that this dude would be able to just to fuck a bunch of shit, and maybe it's as pure cinema as you got to build him up, right? He has to be a formidable foe, but I don't know. It was very strange to me.
It's an interesting point of view. I never really thought of it that way. So
it smacked me in the face.
I guess I just get charmed by the guy.
He's very charming, and I think that because there's part of me that's like, why is he so charming? But then I'm thinking like, you think about Hitler, you think about Trump, right? To the people that they impress them in a way that is like, it's beyond, right? It's faith.
Yep.
You know, like I was like, some guy on Facebook was yelling at the New Beverly because New Beverly got mad at him for checking the time on his clock.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, homie, if the movie starts at 8 and it's 2 hours, you're out at 10.
Yeah.
No need to check the time.
Yeah.
But
sit and watch a movie.
so I looked at his blog and he was like, he's like, I don't agree with what Trump says, but the way he says it just makes me think of him so well. And it's just like,
that's all you need to know.
right. And that's how people feel about these things, right?
It's the way he says it. So
the opening fight. Some good stuff in that opening fight.
Yes.
Some not so good stuff in that opening fight. Specifically,
shitty slow-mo.
Shitty slow-mo. Kev, say it with me.
Here's what I think about it, though. We've seen Martin Scorsese use good slow-mo, real true slow-mo in Raging Bull. So we know he knows the difference.
Which makes it that much more inexcusable.
He knows what he's doing in that moment,
listen,
though. There's not one shot he doesn't have, like, final approval of.
It's tough because this is days of film where you didn't have cameras with variable frame rates, right? Intrinsically, you have to have like slow-mo film. There are reasons why slow-mo is now more prevalent than it was in the past.
Yeah.
There's you have the Phantom camera, all it does is slow-mo, and you can shoot it 24 if you wanted to as well.
Yeah.
So let's ignoring that for a second. There's some good choreography in that fight, but there's also some bad choreography in that fight. There's a time where Bill is fighting where he's kind of using his weapons like Lord of the Rings styles as if they're like blunt. He's like slashing everyone, not stabbing anyone.
Okay.
And
he's stabbing people.
He does stab people, but there's a lot of like bloodless fighting in that fight, which then gets bloody.
Bloodless fighting in that opening fight where the guy gets fish hooked and his lip gets ripped off.
Listen,
yeah, that part.
I'm talking about specifically with Bill, and there's specifically one longer shot where he's just like flaying people,
Yeah.
And I feel like in comparison to the rest of the movie, in comparison to the rest of that fight, that shot is jarringly weak because it should be him just fucking taking dudes' heads off and taking people's arms off, right? And maybe they didn't have the budget for it, and maybe they didn't have the vision for it.
It's not that real. It's not that kind of movie, though. We're telling a historical drama here. You're not gonna go Shaw Brothers in a historical drama.
But that's how
you can make that movie, but it's not this movie.
That's how apparently they had those scenes and they cut them out.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think it's weaker for it. Listen, if you're gonna show me,
plus there's arms getting there's a shot of a hand getting.
Yeah. But
the dude getting fish hooked. That is nasty.
Yeah, it is nasty. Also, what a powerful fish hook.
Yeah,
ripping his face.
Ew, gross.
The kid actor for Leo is terrible. I'm sorry, that kid is awful.
He looks just like Jake Lloyd.
He looks like.
What do you think, Gator Ribbits?
And he has no emotion.
Yeah, he's good thing he's only in it for like a little bit.
Yeah, but
come on, Futter, get up. It's like, come on, dude.
When that kid was gone, I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
This movie started off, I was worried with that kid. Here's the last thing I got.
Sure.
And this is the worst one. Love story. Not Marty's strong suit, never has been, probably never will be.
Yep.
Double love triangle, Kev. Double love triangle.
Yep.
Leo, his best friend, and
Jim.
Diaz. Leo, Diaz, and Bill.
Yep.
Both of them stupid and add nothing to the love triangle thing. The fact that his friend betrays him over the love triangle is hella dumb.
Yep.
Just very beneath this movie. Really is.
True. And I think that to me is where the messiness comes in.
Yes.
When I say this movie's messy, it's those things don't. It's part of the whole tapestry, but it's not the best part of the tapestry. You know, it is a tapestry, but yeah, it's like that one's just not quite there.
Yeah. That's a part of the tapestry. You know, like when everyone makes a quilt together.
Yep.
That's like the person who's like, oh, superheroes.
Yep.
Oh shit. I just have
I brought Daniel Boone.
I have a doctor, and then this guy did Davy Crockett, but you guys all did superheroes.
Oh boy.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So,
Again, yeah. If I could excise anything, it would be
the love story.
a good chunk of either love story or the Johnny betrayal, or
Right.
There's got to be a better way for Bill to find out about.
Well,
that.
I think the Johnny betrayal works as if he betrays him. He's just loyal to Bill.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
That would make more sense, and I think that would kind of speak to more how people are conditioned to keep things the same as opposed to inviting change.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if she was like, run away with me, like if there was a tease of romance where it's like not like they actually hooked up, but like she's just like, run away with me, we'll go to California together, like we could be together, and he is just too engaged in all this to really consider that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the worst thing that they did was that I'm going to kill you, Cameron Diaz, and then 1 second later we're making out.
Yeah.
Kev is. We see this so often.
You have said on this podcast before, action does not make you horny.
It makes me question, and I think this is everything that's wrong with males in America. It makes me question it. Does mortal fear turn women on? I watch so many movies with you think that it might. But I know it doesn't.
It might.
And listen, there's some girls out there who it probably does. And listen, girls, I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, on the whole, you would think that that's every woman's fetish. You know, like let's go like I'm feeling a little horny. Let's go down to the train track, and I'm gonna avoid some death, and then we could go step in the fucking car.
Yep. They don't go for it. No matter how many dinosaurs you save them from.
Yeah.
Never get stripped.
Nick, have you have any nitpicks?
I said the big one's the elephant.
Leo's braid. It's a terrible braid.
Leo's braid's a little funky. He should have just done like a samurai bun. Come on. The Chinese people could have taught him how to do a bun. There's that weird shot with the preacher in the church. It's like a POV shot. He's like McGloin, and then he like hits it, and the camera tilts over. We've never seen that dude. We don't really know who he is, and then it's just it's a strange scene.
This movie is not afraid to introduce characters halfway through, and I think it works with all of like the landed gentry dudes.
Sure.
But with the priest, it's like, are you powerful? Like you're a priest. In our modern day view of a priest is kind of like a worker, not like a leader.
Exactly. He's just a community person, not somebody who really. The leading is left to the Bill the Butchers and the Amsterdams of the world.
Speaking of that, Leo no-selling the knife wound the rest of the whole movie. He takes a knife all the way down to the hilt into his stomach.
Yeah.
Survives that, which is already crazy. But then it's not even sore or nothing the rest of the whole movie. Come on. Then don't have him get stabbed at all then.
I mean, we see him suffer in the little cave when they're like trying to work.
That's a gnarly injury, dude.
That is not. Yeah, he gets that wound. Something fierce.
Yeah.
So.
Although I do like how Bill lets him live because Bill is trying to recreate. The past with his father. I do think that works really well.
And a great callback when he's like, "That's a wound," and it calls back to the scene where they're cutting the pig. Mm-hmm. So good stuff.
Kill, wound. Also, cannonballs don't explode. They certainly don't explode into gigantic fireballs.
No. So yeah, historical inaccuracy there. They had to get rid of those sets somehow. So.
Any cool stuff that you want to highlight, any other nitpicks you got?
Lots of great moments and cool stuff. A performance we haven't really talked about is Jim Broadbent as Boss Tweed. Jim Broadbent's great in everything. He's fantastic in this movie. Boss Tweed was an over-the-top real-life character, He's just this great slimy politician who will just do whatever is needed to be done. And I just love it when he goes, "It's the black joke! Get him, boys!" I just love that part. Also, what a great name for a game. The Black Joke. It's cool.
Interesting.
I dig it.
My gang name would be the White Hand of Saruman. Taken, you say? The Bible in the river, great.
Great.
He's just like, fuck this thing.
Yep. Just immediate, yeah.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
There's a lot of great lines in this movie. One of mine, when they're looking at Cameron Diaz, they say, "Prim-looking stargazer."
Yep. Prim-looking stargazer.
Bill's clothes.
Bill's clothes. Everybody's clothes are great. I love the dead rabbits when they come back later. They have the hand-painted red stripes on their shirt. Like, that's just a cool look.
That is a cool look.
The riot scene it's grand in scope, but purposely chaotic. It's such a, like, this is probably what a citywide riot would actually feel like, you know, and just... The soundtrack is surprisingly great. You know, it has some Howard Shore score, but then it has modern music. It's got Celtic folk songs. It's got everything. It's just a really underrated soundtrack, I think. So,
and come to California. There's gold in the streets. California. That is how they advertised California back in the day. From 5th grade history. They're like, you just go up to a river and just pick the gold out of it.
There you go.
Bullshit.
It was that easy. Paying for gold.
So basically, the ending is a super downer ending because they're going to go to California and there is no glory over there.
Not much. Not very much.
Okay.
Love the last shot of just modern New York, and the Twin Towers are still standing. They had very much fallen by the time this movie come out. That was like I remember that just kind of being a really triumphant statement.
Mm-hmm.
So
and controversial at the time.
Controversial, but you know what?
People had lost their mind when it came to showing the Twin Towers. Like, you couldn't even show them in things, and it's like
that's exactly what they want. You know,
right? Well, that's
exactly what the terrorists want.
That's true.
They want to affect your life, and you know what? That was I just remember seeing that in the theater and just being like, "Way to go, Marty."
Well, it also shows you. It also those two towers, because they're international trade. That was like what they did there. Mm-hmm. So it did show you, like, that's what New York became, right? These guys are fighting over the 5 points. And this city eventually becomes arguably a hub to the world. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and the guys like, you know, what we fought about was irrelevant. And it's like, yeah, look at these two towers are the example of how this becomes an international city. And you guys are talking about localism to the fucking 5 points.
Yep. Exactly.
Fuck off.
The fight between Amsterdam and McGloin in the bar when they first kind of like throw off their shirts like they're gonna fight, and everybody just immediately sets the arena up and the music speeds up. Like the guy playing the dulcimer is like, "Oh, we're doing fight music now." It's like, this has happened a million times in this bar, and everybody just knows the drill. It's like a fight's gonna happen, and they're appropriately sweaty and gross after a fight, which I like as well.
Yeah, there's always that thing in movies that you appreciate, like the realism of, like, you know, whenever everyone's on an airplane. It's like in the airplane shaking and making loud noises and stuff. It's like, yeah, that's what it's like to be on an airplane. It's not like...
It's not a smooth ride.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, it's that scene in particular, I just like all the background characters just going, here we go. We gotta fight, folks. Here we go.
We're running a little long here, Kev, but do you have a fan theory or a sequel pitch?
Man, not especially. Again, this movie is just so singular in its weirdness. It's just don't give a fuckness. And with all its flaws and all of its, you know, there's things that work, there's things that don't, there's things that are great, there's things that are not so good, there's the elephant. It's just, it's a movie that it's completely imperfect and I don't want to change a thing about it.
I would say
somehow lessen its craziness.
I would say that I would like a spiritual sequel to this movie. I would like a similar tale, perhaps told in a different city. You know, maybe in Los Angeles, maybe in Chicago. Maybe in Dallas-Fort Worth area. I don't know, Kev. But a tale of this time about this kind of a thing, I think it's an interesting story to examine. Yeah. And I think for all the flaws in the movie, the tone of this movie is very watchable and interesting.
It is an entertaining movie.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what I can't call him first name. That's what Scorsese really excels at.
Oh, Marty?
Marty, he's an entertainer at heart. He knows you got to tell a good yarn first. and then everything else kind of comes with it.
So yeah, I just think that I feel like So I didn't watch 12 Years a Slave because I think I'm afraid of it being too heavy. I also feel like the narrative of slavery is bad is like even white nationalists will begrudgingly admit that. You know what I mean?
Begrudgingly. Maybe.
Right. But I'm saying it's like
somewhat rational.
I feel like that's too distant of a story. I feel like this story, even though it's distant in time and in ideology, is very awakening for what it is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And on the Scorsese meter of essential, good, or forgettable, fuck Marty. If you're living in America today, for the next 3 years or 4 years, this is an essential movie.
I think so. Absolutely.
So,
and amazing that, again, this movie is going to be 15 this year, and it's only become more relevant, which is both great for that movie and terrifying for this nation.
Yes.
Now, if only Trump was half as charming as Bill the Butcher.
Well, I'm kind of glad he isn't, to be truthful.
I want to chop those ears and that nose off that head.
We're taking ears and noses as prize, but no one touches him.
No one touches this man.
I do wish...
He ain't earned a death in my hands.
I do wish I had the same diction as Bill.
You can adopt it.
I want to.
Get that stovepipe hat and just walk around going, "Hello, priest. I a true American."
Daniel Day-Lewis, man, he is fantastic in this movie. Just unrecognizable.
Lean as a bean, this guy.
Yeah.
Not an ounce of fat on him, so maybe not an ounce of muscle either.
Do you forgive him for 9 now?
No. Fuck that movie.
And on that note, that's it for us. This episode written by Kev, music by Jeff Russell. I'm Mr. Jibber Jabber. That's Kev. Don't let any turtle doves flinch your stuff.
If I was a method actor, I'd want to be a guy who gets a lot of massages. that would be that's what I would method act. Write that for me, Marty. I'll do it for you.
If I was a method actor, I would want just to be a guy who like hangs out at the beach, but like doesn't do anything at the beach. I'm not a surfer. I just like to chill.
There you go.
Barbecue, maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe.
Maybe.